Tonight is someone who's been in public life for quite some time. He was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, then a congressman from the state, and he's now a U.S. senator. But all that most people know about him is that he's a socialist who cares passionately about policy and about his country. Tonight, we're going to try to do something difficult, get to know a guy who seems hard to get to know. We're going to change all of that. Our guest, Bernie Sanders. Senator, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
All right, want to start with the best way I know to get to know somebody. Tell us about your grandchildren. Where do they live? What do you like to do with them?
The grandchildren, 7 of them, are the joys of my life. 4 of them live in Burlington, where I live. 3 of them in Claremont, New Hampshire.
What do you like to do with them?
Well, we play baseball. We play monster. I'm a very good monster chasing them around.
Let's see a little of that. What do you do?
I don't want to get you too scared.
Yeah.
I got my...
I'm terrified over here.
And he doesn't want to play it anymore.
And when you play baseball, is this like 7 grandkids and you, 8 4-on-4?
No, we played, littlest one is 3, so we're in initial instructions here, but we got some good ball players in the family.
Wiffle ball?
And then we have one of my older ones is a fantastic gymnast, of which I have nothing to do with.
Okay. Mark mentioned your famous pedigree as a socialist. I'm curious about, name a couple famous socialists, and I'm curious which of these had more influence on your brand of socialism. Okay, Eugene Debs, Helen Keller, Albert Einstein, and Hugo Chavez.
Well, Debs, I did a film on Debs.
You did?
Yeah, so I would say certainly Debs. And Helen Keller, of course, was really brilliant and revolutionary in doing what she did as a deaf mute. But the work that Debs did in the early part of the 20th century really laid the groundwork for what Roosevelt did in the 1930s in finally allowing working people some power in developing policies which helped a struggling working class.
I want to talk about the Dow of Sanders on some things you've done in the past before you were a politician. Back growing up in Brooklyn, you were, we have read, a great runner, track and field man. What is the key, like the one-sentence key, the Dow of Sanders, to being a great track and field guy?
I wasn't great. I was good.
All right, good. What's the key, though? Stretching, what's the thing?
I ran long distance, half-mile, cross country, and it was just, I was one with a lot of endurance, and it's persistence, it's working hard, not giving up.
Okay, filmmaker, you mentioned you were a filmmaker, Dow of Sanders. What's the key to being a great film?
That's the stretch. I wouldn't, not quite a filmmaker.
You worked in film.
I made a video.
What's the key to being a great filmmaker, telling stories?
Picking your subject matter. In other words, I'm not a great fan of media in general, and what I tried to do is to focus on people who played a very important role in American history, but nobody knew anything about. Eugene Debs being one. Probably 90% of your viewers don't know who Debs was. In fact, Debs was one of the great heroes of the 20th century.
So last thing I want to ask you about, is it true that you worked as a carpenter for a while?
Again, stretching it. Did I bang nails?
Yeah. All right.
Put up some shingles? Yes, I did.
What's the key to being a good carpenter?
Not to fall off the roof.
Okay.
Good answer. Okay. Again, I'm going to come back to socialism. Socialist, presumably you also do some socializing in the U.S. Senate. You got 99 colleagues there. Who do you like to spend time with when you're not hard at work? Off the Senate floor, having fun?
Well, the people I'm closest to are generally people who share my political views. People like Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, Sherrod Brown, Barbara Boxer.
And what do you guys do for fun when you're socializing?
It's pretty boring. We have dinner, talk about what's going on politically.
Is there any Republican you socialize with?
Occasionally on committees I talk to people. Richard Burr of North Carolina is the ranking member of the Veterans Committee and my subcommittee, so he and I end up spending time together.
If I asked you to say one nice thing about Ted Cruz, could you manage that?
Sure. Cruz is smart. He is articulate. He says what he believes.
Right.
He's dead wrong on everything, but...
Fair enough.
You a big Seinfeld fan by any chance? Yeah? All right, I'm going to show you a clip from Seinfeld. Watch closely, all right? Up there.
George, the word around the office is that you're a communist.
Communist? I am a Yankee, sir, first and foremost.
George, it struck me today that a communist pipeline into the vast reservoir of Cuban baseball talent could be the greatest thing ever to happen to this organization.
Now, ostensibly, the voice of George Steinbrenner is done by Larry David, but if you go on the internet, thousands of people think that you were the voice of George Steinbrenner. That sound like you think?
Is that really right?
Think that sound like you at all?
No,
I don't think it does. All right. I just want you to read this first line here. George, the word around the office is... that people think you're a communist. Just read that.
George, the word around the office is...
Start over. We'll take second take.
George, the word around the office is that you're a communist.
And then read the next Steinbrenner line there.
You know, George, it struck me today that a communist pipeline into the vast pipeline of Cuban baseball talent could be the greatest thing to happen to this organization.
The internet is going to go on fire because, again, the conspiracy theorists proved correct. Did you do the voice of George Steinbrenner? Wasn't you? Wasn't.
No. Okay. All right.
Now that we've dealt with the important issues facing America, what else do we have?
Here's the thing, though. You know, I've gotten to understand you and appreciate your personality, your sense of humor more today than in lots of your television appearances.
But you know what?
It's an important part of leadership, though, isn't it? People getting to know you? Not at all.
I wouldn't say not at all. It is important. But what's more important is there are enormous problems facing this country, and we don't talk about them. And then you have people like George W. Bush, who was a really nice guy. Really nice guy. The worst president in the modern history of America. So personality is fine, but what's most important is what an elected official is going to be doing.
No question ideas matter a ton, and we've heard you talk about ideas a ton. What we wanted to do today, as I said at the top, was get us...
You're forgiven.
Don't do it again. See your monster imitation.
I mean, the monster imitation was pretty great. Okay, look, you're thinking about running for president in 2016, right?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay, so what are the factors that are going to weigh in terms of your judgment whether you're going to run or not?
We have today in America massive wealth and income inequality. We have a billionaire class which, as a result of Citizens United, is able to spend unlimited sums of money to buy elections. Now, I am somebody who has taken on the oil companies, the drug companies, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, the Koch brothers. If I ran, is it conceivable that we can rally the American people to take on such extraordinarily powerful forces, the people who own America, the people who, by and large, control the media? That would be the issue.
And do you think, I mean, it's clear that there are a lot of people in the country who believe what you believe and all the things you just said. Is that, how do you figure out whether there's obviously a lot of people out there who feel this? So what's going to be the determining factor for whether to run or not for you to run?
That's a great question. And the answer is you do the best you can. I've been running around the country and I'm saying to people, listen, if we ran on a set of principles and programs which are designed to rebuild the collapsing middle class in this country, health care for all, affordable college, massive jobs program, rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, changing our trade policy so companies invest in America, not in China. Are you prepared to really work hard on that campaign? Can we put together a grassroots movement of millions of people? And I can give a great speech, but I don't know that we can do that, because to take on the ruling class of America, to take on the political establishment, the economic establishment, the media establishment, believe me, that ain't easy.
Okay, if you decide not to run, last question, if you decide not to run, who would you think would be a better Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton or Ed Schultz?
Well, I think Ed does a great job. I think Ed is one of the heroes of the media. I think he speaks to the needs of working class people. I think Elizabeth Warren is, somebody who's doing a great job.
But if you walked into the Vermont voting booth and the two candidates on the Democratic primary ballot were Hillary Clinton and Ed Schultz, who would you vote for?
I'll respectfully decline to answer that question at this time. Ed Schultz is a very good friend of mine.
Okay.
Senator? Fist bump.
Is this what we do on the media?
What we do on this program, to humanize, get to know you. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, thanks for coming in, and we'll be right back.